Hi, Filmatics. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in today. We have a very amazing guest, one of my favorite producers and directors, Carl Buehl. Carl is an Emmy award-winning and three-time Emmy-nominated executive producer. He is known for Undercover Billionaire, Comeback City, Homemade Simple, and Paradise Hotel. Carl, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. And Carl, we record live by the wonderful Wi-Fi during COVID. And where are you recording live from today?
I am literally from my office that I just moved into about a week and a half ago in Austin, Texas. Moved here from LA after being in LA for about 30 years, I think.
Oh, wow. And you moved right during the snowstorm in Texas, right?
Yeah, literally a day and a half before it.
Oh my God. Okay, you didn't even have like water or plumbing or anything. So you had a little rough moving to Texas, right?
Yeah. Well, I was staying at a hotel because I was coming here 10 days early before I could get into my new place for meetings and things. And so I was staying at a hotel up the street. And thankfully, we had power the entire time, but I spent 4.5 days there without water. So that was challenging.
Oh, wow. Well, I hope Texas welcomes you warmly now, and that we're just, hoping all our Texas fans and fans around the world have water and power and stay warm during the winter, even though California and Florida, we're pretty, in short suite.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you, growing up, did you have a favorite film that you loved as a kid?
Yes, I think the first real, solid film memory was the original Star Wars. The original Star Wars film that I remember seeing, I can't even remember, I think it was probably 11 or 12 at the time. And it just had such an impact for me because what a fantastic film at the time, So that's absolutely my number one favorite.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, Star Wars. There was lines around the blocks, lines about people camping out there waiting. And I had a dad from the military. He's like, "Nope, you got to wait till like there's no line." So, so I want to ask you too, because you're an extraordinary producer and director, and with a fabulous career. I wanted to ask you, do you have a favorite? Like, you can share one of your favorite Criterion movies that you love.
Probably, I would have to say the Seven Samurai was absolutely, I remember seeing that also when I was fascinated as a kid with the Far East and samurai and ninja, and I read books, and also I was really attracted to Japan. And so, of course, that would be, upon seeing that film, having an opportunity to actually sit and watch and just being fascinated by those films. They're awesome.
Yeah. Did you have any brothers or sisters? Did you play like ninjas or samurais?
Oh yeah, I had brothers. I had two sisters and a brother, but they weren't necessarily playing ninja and samurai. But I did have some close friends that lived around the corner from me that we would all the time. And I remember we were always trying to figure out ways to save up money to we'd buy the magazines where you could get throwing stars or like the kung fu shoes and all that kind of stuff, trying to get any kind of thing like that because it would make it cool in the neighborhood for sure.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, speaking of, do you have a favorite director and a director film that you just love?
Yeah, for sure. My all-time favorite would be. I mean, there's a lot of favorites, but I think in particular Steven Spielberg is amazing. I appreciate. I remember I saw him speak a number of years ago before I left Florida to come to LA, and I not only did I appreciate his films, but I appreciate the way that he treats crews and the way that he kind of levels the playing field. That while yes, there are decision makers. He told a story about how he would get everybody in a circle at the start of a film, and including caterers, PAs, and everybody, and you have a tennis ball, and he would play this game where you had to bounced a tennis ball to somebody across the way, but you had to say their name first, including all the stars and everybody. So they would bounce this ball around the circle, and he would do it until you could remember everybody's name, because the idea was that it takes this entire group of people to do a film. It's not just one person, and we should all respect and know each other's names. I just thought that was a great thing.
Wow, that is so beautiful. And I mean, like, that's extraordinary. And you can see why he's one of everyone's favorite director. And little did we know that how respectful he is to every single member on the team, which I agree, that's so important, to be nice to everyone. But whoever's crunching and munching right next to the mic as an independent person, you're like, back off.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but an independent filmmaker right here. So I love you, but do not make noise next to the mic.
Exactly. Yeah. Give them space. Go to a closed trailer somewhere. Eat your heart out.
It always happens when you make a film as an indie person. But so that's a beautiful story. I've never heard that one, the tennis ball. I love that. And is there a favorite scene that you like by a director that you want to share with us?
Yeah, in Spielberg's, speaking of, because it was such a surreal but realistic shot, would be the opening shots in Schindler's List. When they're coming on to I'm sorry, was it Schindler's List or what is? No, it's not Schindler. Is it Schindler's List, the one that I'm thinking of, where they're coming to storm the beach? Or no, we're talking about
Saving Ryan, Saving Private Ryan.
Was it the beginning of Saving Private Ryan, where all of a sudden you've got the ships coming up and all of a sudden all the gunfire starts happening and the people are clamoring off the ships? I think it was. It couldn't have been Schindler's List. Oh my God, why am I drawing a blank now? Hold on a second. I'm actually gonna look it up.
Yeah.
Because I know that I thought Schindler's List, but that's not the film. So hold on a second. So
I'm dyslexic, so I do things like that all the time. Even though the Schindler List, the bathtub scene, even though their book reading, really beautiful. But also I'm assuming because it's ships and war, it could be Saving Ryan, Private Ryan, and they also did the spoof of that. So I say it backwards too, Saving.
Yeah, I think it was Saving Private Ryan. As a matter of fact, yes, it was Saving Private Ryan. That's the one I'm thinking of, because the I remember going to see it with a friend of mine who gets motion sick. And we were in this theater, right in the middle of the theater, and in the action, the way the camera was moving, because he did nothing to, everything needed to be handheld and feel like you were right in the moment. And that entire scene was just so realistic and so horrific, in a number of ways. So, pardon me for mistaking it, because I remember I couldn't go to the theater to watch Schindler's List, because I knew I would be a basket case. And so I watched it at home. So that I remember watching at home, but Saving Private Ryan is the one that I'm thinking of, with the scene when they're pulling up to the beach. Just, wow, what an incredible scene. You were like in it from the word go.
Yeah. And it's amazing that the storytellers and the directors are like, someone explained it to me, it's like the captain that drives the ship or the bus, and someone to have extraordinary vision and able to implement it. It's just so beautiful to see those films like that. And I hope that theater comes back, because there's some films that are just meant for you to see in that theater, with a group of people that you just enjoy that journey with. And because there's nothing like streaming at home. You're like eating popcorn, you're on the phone, you're texting, you're probably making a little TikTok video, or and like attention span, like ADHD people. So you really have the full gist of it to concentrate on that movie. And so speaking of, I want to ask you, like, where did you, how did you start your career path? Like, you said you were from Florida, or?
Yeah. I started when I was 16 years old in AM radio. My mass media teacher in high school after I was sort of the class clown and had hidden her books and locked them away in a cabinet.
What?
And
you hidden her books?
Unbeknownst to me, she didn't have the key to the cabinet, and the particular drawer that I locked it in, they had to have a maintenance guy from the janitorial staff come and undo it. And so after she took roll and did everything, she came and sat down next to me and she said, have you ever considered working in entertainment in any way? And I, at the time I was a guitar player, yes, but I didn't even think about it. I was working in an unfinished furniture store at the time, staining furniture for people who would buy the furniture. And and she said, have you ever thought about entertainment? I was like, yeah, no, not really, whatever. Kind of blew her off. And then that summer, she picked up the phone and she called out of the blue during the summer break. And she said, hey, do you want a job? There's a radio station that's down the street that's looking, and several of the people that work there were my students. So I thought of you because they're looking for somebody to bring in. So I want you to go and meet. And I got the job and ended up staying with that company for that AM station, went to an FM classical music station, started a traffic service with the owner of the company, and was doing contract traffic reports for 3 different radio stations in Tampa. And then I ended up being on television. I was on the air for 2.5 years as a VJ, and learned sort of rudimentary editing, and then learned more about editing, all the while doing music. So, TV and radio was my day job. Music was my nighttime thing as a guitar player. And then I got management that I met that they were also the same people that managed the band Journey.
Wow. Journey.
And they brought me out to California. They were like, you need to come west. You need to connect with this guy. So that's when I made the move. And TV editing for television was my way of paying the bills. My real reason for being in LA was music. But now, of course, my television career took off, and there's a whole story behind music that I'll save for another time.
Oh, wow. So this nice teacher, this woman, this female, and it's Women's Day that we're recording, March 8th, by the way. So this lovely female teacher of yours was so kind and generous with your prank that she didn't reprimand you, she didn't bully you, she didn't harass you, but she gently gave you love and gave you your start. And so whoever this woman is, congratulations. She gets an award from me and probably from a lot of people on this very
She was awesome.
Day.
I went back and spoke at her. She asked me to come back once I was working the radio station and even at the talk station. I was 17 years old. I had my own show on Saturday mornings.
That's fantastic.
On that radio station.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
so she invited me back to come speak at classes. So I would, just to sort of pay back. She was awesome.
Oh, that's beautiful. So you came from Florida, and then by the managers, the people of Journey, the music, oh my gosh, the most awesome music. And we're having so many people right now going, we miss rock and roll. We need rock and roll. Where's all our rock and rollers, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's like pop rock now. And then I go to my friend, what's the name of this? He goes, EDM, electronic dance music. I go, I like this. So you transitioned to TV producing. Can you tell the audience a little bit about that? Because I'd love to hear your story.
Yeah. I was when I came out here or came out to LA, I landed a job editing for at the time it was Prime Ticket, and Prime Ticket became Fox Sports. Fox Sports, bought them out. But I was cutting for Prime Ticket, and there was a couple of people that worked at a post facility outside of the Prime Ticket building, and they knew of my music background, and they also knew I was doing a lot of sports shows, which is funny because I'm so not a sports fan, but I was cutting a lot of sports shows, and because of my music background, I had a real propensity and efficiency or proficiency at cutting music. So I could take long pieces of music and cut lyrics out and, you know, loop back and do all kinds of things that would feel seamless. So it felt like it, you know, was edited to rhythm and a lot of things I hear nowadays where I just go, oh my God, bad edit, you know. But I was cutting music and they suggested, they were like, hey, you really need to go to this company that's that cuts a lot of MTV stuff. So I ended up moving to that post facility as a full-time editor, and again, still recording and writing music at night and doing this during the day to make money. And I was doing a bunch of MTV shows, and then I started doing an NBC Kids show called Name Your Adventure that had Mario Lopez and Jordan Brady as the hosts. And I did a couple of seasons cutting that, and that production company, at one point around the same time that our band got a couple of recording offers, they said, hey, we really want you to come back next season and direct for us because you always have great, solid, you know, ideas and direction, and we'll sign your DGA ticket and endorse you to get into DGA, and because you had to be a DGA member in order to direct the show. So they connected me with the DGA ticket, and I got into directing, and that just naturally led into producing. I started producing and directing for America's Most Wanted because I was producing and directing and cutting a lot of my own stories for Most Wanted.
Wow, that's a lot of work. A lot of work. Probably like what, almost 18 hours a day for that?
It was a lot. It was, you know, what would happen is you'd go out and we had to find the stories, pitch it to them. Then they would take the story, and then you would go out and shoot it. They just, you know, fill in the budget. You'd go shoot it and direct it, and then come back, and they would book edit time somewhere for me, and I'd cut it and then send it away, and it would, you know, air in a week or two.
Wow.
So it was really a crash course in a lot of ways, going from local TV that I started for in front of the camera, sort of a crash course in learning television and how to do it, to then crashing into doing Most Wanted and sort of, you know, having to do it. And then I just naturally started getting supervising producer offers and from directing. And then when I was doing The Swan, we had just started on the second season of The Swan, and I got an offer to come be the co-EP and showrunner for Super Nanny for ABC.
Oh, I love the Super Nanny. Wow, well, that's a great show.
Yeah, it was
English,
fun.
Very English. Listen up, you little naughty boys and girls. Time out.
Yeah, exactly. That was fun.
Help us. And the little car comes in. That's a brilliant. I love that. The little car, you know.
Yeah.
You are good. You are very, very spectacular. Like, and you have you know how to edit. That's like, I wish I could edit. I'm just starting to learn edit on CapCut.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, the thing is from a show running standpoint and just being an exec, whether you have other people directing or producing or going out and shooting, I think having the skill in of the edit bay translates so much, of course, into directing, but producing too. When a lot of the things that I do, I'm on location and I'm usually directing my own stuff. So you know when you have a scene or not, you know, and if you have an editor's mind and you're thinking about how to cut together scenes, you know when you've shot enough. And then there's other times when people would come back with just, bucket loads of footage that eventually an editor, you're never going to have the time to go through it anyway. So get what you need for the scene and then know that it's going to come back and it's going to cut well.
Yeah. I really believe, like, if you know how to edit, and as a director, a writer, producer, you have the vision already. If you know what shots you need to cut and need, it's definitely helpful. So yeah, that's amazing. So you've been nominated for Emmy 3 times with some wins. Can you share anything with your favorite projects that you worked on?
Those, 2 of the nominations, one win and one nomination were both for Homemade Simple, which was a show on OWN, the Oprah Winfrey Network. And the irony of that show is interesting, is that it was a time buy show. It was Procter and Gamble owned that show, and it was an opportunity for them to sort of highlight their product and their stuff. And it was originally a daytime show on TLC that was bumped over to OWN, and they wanted to revamp it. So the guys at Scout Productions, well, it was Green Harbor, their name was Green Harbor at the time, but it was the same guys as Scout, the people who do Queer Eye, that, we got together to sort of really break it down and figure out the format and how to make it different. It was just primarily, to me, good storytelling is always about great characters, and it was always about what made these people feel like they were deserving of the renovations that we would go in and do, or the bringing redesign into their rooms and all this kind of stuff. And we would surprise them with it. And there would always be somebody that would nominate the person that was receiving the makeover, So it started out the first season with Paige Davis. And I think that in that particular show, the joy of doing that show was that everybody was so on board with helping these people out and really highlighting the beauty of why they were so deserving. And that starts at the top. And for me, it was always about like recognizing that in those people and then highlighting it in the storytelling.
Yeah, and the host was the lovely
Paige
host,
Davis.
Paige Davis, yeah.
Paige was on the first season, and then it went from Paige to
Ali, right?
Soleil Moonfry.
Okay.
Did it for a season.
Okay, good, yeah. Great, yeah, I really love that. And then so your Emmy win was for this one, right? Homemade.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was, yeah. The win was for the second or the third season of Homemade Simple. I did the first season when it came back as an hour, and then the third season we cut it back to a half hour that they would air back to back. So we were shooting half-hour episodes, so we could pack in more story and more opportunity for them to have ad time between the 2 half hours. But it was it moved better as a half hour. It was easier to tell the stories, and that was the one that we ended up winning for, was the half hour version.
Oh, congratulations. Yeah. And so during COVID, how did it affect your art? Like, you moved to Texas, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I just got to Texas a matter of weeks ago, and I did, as far as being able to shoot, we all suffered the same production shutdown that everybody else did. I was really lucky last year in that in June, I got a call from my agent and saying, I want you to have a meeting with somebody about a show, which was the Undercover Billionaire show. And I had a meeting, and they ended up offering me the gig to be the co-EP in the field, working with Glenn for the spinoff Comeback City, and direct that and to run it in the field. And so we were really tip of the spear, one of the first productions that was not sort of shiny floor stage based, that was going out in the real world to shoot in COVID times, so it was really challenging on a number of levels. Ironically, after all the safeguards and everything like that, we were being tested once a week, sometimes twice a week, depending upon the amount of exposure that we had. But I got a positive test. And I was the only one that had the positive test. But then the interesting part was that it was positive, and we're all sort of shocked, including me, because I was really attentive to the protocols and everything that we needed to do. I mean, constantly walking around and squirting sanitizer in people's hands and all this stuff. And so I got tested before it, and then twice after it. And there was a negative test prior to, and then 2 negative tests afterwards, but I still had to quarantine because of the 1 positive test. So still to this day, I don't really know for sure. Did I have it and just didn't, ever show symptoms, or so who knows? But overall, it was, man, oh man, it's challenging to shoot,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I know we've been talking about all your things. We have about 6 minutes before the half hour is done. But would we be able to hear some of your music, and would you be able to do a song for us live on National Women's Day?
Oh, I could play something. I don't sing. I simply play, but you'd have to give me some time to go grab my guitar and tune it up and think of something to play.
Okay, yes. Okay, so well, maybe we're gonna do part two. But so can you tell us, like, during COVID, like you got a positive test and then it was negative. So maybe it's a false positive, or maybe that was a faulty test thing. Because I've been in LA, I think almost every single person had it. Like, they lost their taste, they lost their smell. And there's people that I come on the show, or I've been talking to all around the world, from Canada to Switzerland. They're like, I'm in my house, not going anywhere, and wearing plastic gloves, plastic things, and they still caught it. So, but thank God, most of the people have said they recovered, and several people had it really, really bad in London, where they were actually in the hospital on ventilators. My one actor friend, was in a hospital a long time in London. He was healthy, and I guess when he went to London, somehow traveling, I was on Facebook, like, didn't look good for him at all. Did not look good for him at all. And then he calls me, like, 2 weeks ago, and he made it, and I was just like so happy for him. Yeah.
Wow,
so yeah,
great.
Kenneth Dixon. Yeah, knock on wood. Lovely actor and singer. So the move to Texas is because you're working on the Undercover Billionaire?
No. I've been wanting to get out of Los Angeles for several years, just primarily because years back I started realizing that I didn't necessarily have to be in LA to continue to work, because most of the stuff, pre-production, I was doing most of the time from home. Occasionally I'd be in offices, but then I'm out on location to shoot. And then post is always done remotely as well, or is happening concurrently. And then I'm simply flying back and forth to wherever it is that I need to, if I'm dropping into an edit bay or something like that. So I started realizing, like, why am I paying such exorbitant rents and cost of living to be in LA, when there's so many other places in the United States that are gorgeous, to live in, and might be just sort of and of course, better quality of life, because it got to the place. I was living the last several years on the West Side between the Marina del Rey and Venice. And if you know anything about Marina del Rey and Venice nowadays, it's just gotten sort of ridiculous with the homelessness and just, it's not, like, traffic is amazing, just, and what you're paying for, I don't want to go and sort of dish on LA, that badly, but it just became apparent to me that I was like, now's a good time to go ahead and go,
And so, a lot of people are moving since, that's one of the beautiful things, I think, with COVID, that people were able to work from home, and they're able to move somewhere and live somewhere that they have a better quality of life. Because let's face it, unless you're a multimillionaire in LA, I don't think that you can even buy a box anymore, you know? And, and that, I think people just have that quality of life. So that's something positive that came from COVID, that people can work from home and to move somewhere and enjoy it. Yeah, because I would love some acres. I would love some acres. I love dogs and animals. But so so you moved to Texas, and so can you share with the audience a little bit, like, what's coming up for you and where they can keep up with? We have like a 1 minute, like, where they can keep up with you. And
Clubhouse, I'm on quite a bit, obviously. Instagram, Twitter. I typically keep up with what I'm doing between those two platforms. You can find me. It's just Carl Buehl on Instagram. And Undercover Billionaire is airing now. I'm going to be starting a new project. I can't really talk about what that project is yet. In 2 weeks, and that's going to be a 10-episode series that I'm going to be doing. I'm in the process of 7 or 8 different development projects that I'm really excited about. One is a scripted project that's looking really good. So yeah, there's a lot of things on the horizon.
Well, we want to thank you so much, Carl Buehl, for coming on the show today. And we're going to invite Carl back to hear his music because he was in a band. So we're definitely going to nudge him for part 2 of Carl Buehl. Thank you for listening, everyone. Stay healthy and